From Josh Emmett to Alex Volkanovski, Yair Rodriguez is aiming higher with each bout, and he doesn't seem to rush into it either. He's not timid about aiming straight for the jugular either. I call that a winning combo. If I could pick any one of the Mexican's standout qualities, it would be his ability to merge offense with defense. In other words, he knows how to throw and land maximum damage. This makes him a potential champion, maybe even the second ever champion to put a halt to Alex Volkanovski's record. I don't know which one's the higher accomplishment. All I know is that with his submission of Josh, he's made himself into a definite contender. Plus, El Pantera pushes the pace for all 9 minutes of the game. That's when it seemed over for Emmett. It was a well-executed triangle choke that did it by perhaps the most exciting striker in the division. He has all the ingredients of a champion. It makes him fit to fight his only match in the division. As the interim champ now, he seems to be the logical contender too. Only one person comes to mind: The Great. He's fresh off a career-defining match against the still lightweight champion of the world, Islam Makhachev. It was no doubt a clear win for UFC history. While it raised my respect for both champions and pound-for-pound competitors, it also caught the interest of the Panther of the division. By the end of it, Yair had already landed his first shot too. So the interim champ revealed that he had petitioned the pound-for-pound king for a shot at unifying the belt. There's no way you can deny his stance. Well, you can if you're Dana White, that is. Still, the fighter's profile is great in more ways than one. His win over Josh has raised his profile considerably. Not to mention, the fighter's homeland is on the UFC's expansion plans. I'd imagine a considerable threat level from someone so well-positioned. He's already ready to double down on this latest, wanting to take the fight to Mexico City instead of Australia. Whether this condition causes a hiccup for the UFC, and also to see how flexible this Yair special clause is, will only be confirmed once the card's announced. Still, this change in stance may be the unfolding of a more confident, flashy, simply electric fighter. As Yair knows too well though, flash doesn't equal good all the time. He's been criticized for his cocky striking in the past, a bit like his bumpy UFC tenure. Taking a hit quite a few times both inside and out of the cage, I bet his mental game's pretty strong by now. It shows up in his cage game as well. Ever since he entered the UFC in 2014 after winning through The Ultimate Fighter, just that alone is a big achievement for the Mexican who grew up in Mexico. The UFC's reality television series is notorious for its challenges. So that's where Yair made his bones before coming in. In the cage too, he doesn't back down from a challenge. With a respectable loss to Max Holloway featured in his recent record, El Pantera was a winner here too. 1, for fighting against one of the greatest featherweights ever. 2, for winning the fight of the night. He put on a great show going 5 for 5 against Max. Little did I know, it was only the trailer. His next 2 fights against Josh Emmett and Brian Ortega have been stunning. Choked out Josh and TKO'd the number 3 featherweight in round 1. A lot of his strategy depended on a mix and match to adjust to the competitor. His dexterity alone couldn't deliver though. He also had the speed and strength to make it count. In his recent bout, he exposed Emmett's abdomen with kicks out of a southpaw stance. The southpaw tore up Emmett's defense. He also sets a target and follows it up with a creative combo. This will include side kicks and knee kicks that can just leave you hanging. This puts Alex in the crosshairs. Let's get the worst issue for him out of the way first. The Great has an orthodox stance that's great on its own. Not so great though against El Pantera. The interim champ southpaw puts his rear leg up against Volk's liver. If it comes to that, I think even the pound-for-pound king will find it more than a bit uncomfortable. Just fighting-wise, the differences between the two make them a great and exciting matchup. Also makes a fight prediction more concerning for The Great, who comes back to his kingdom after a bout in lightweight. His blind spots only increase from there, and Yair could come out of anywhere at any time. That that much was clear in El Pantera's agility against someone who's actually known for his agility, the Korean Zombie. All this promises an exciting fight and raises the potential for an upset. Remember though, Volk's just built different. The fighter's low stance gives him incredibly quick jabs and low kicks. In fact, they're one of the best in MMA, especially against Max Holloway. Like Yair, Holloway was throwing his jabs high-volume style, but soon had to address a more pressing issue: those low leg kicks. Using his legs to bruise those calves with calf kicks and also as a counter to jabs themselves, that's a champion trait judging by how many fighters are counter kickers right now. From a fan's point of view, I think a champion really hurts himself sometimes just by not fighting. Leave it too long and the drive will go out of you. Manage to defend it for as long as you can until the damage takes a toll. Alex didn't seem tired at all to me in his last fight. The 34-year-old is in his prime, and so is Yair. Whether he'll be successful in taking over the kingdom from the current king affects the whole division. Arnold Allen managed to play for both sides, but I think he is as accurate an assessment as any. He called it a close fight, but Volk is a wall. He's immovable. Almighty also bet on the champ outworking Yair. He can definitely do that if he successfully avoids being outworked himself. Coincidentally, both The Great and El Pantera share this style. In another clash of similarities, both contenders have strong kicks. It also creates room for ground and pound, which both Volk and Yair are great at. Plus, short but strong is how Islam Makhachev praised King Volk. I guess that says it all. Yair too has a leading edge here in both technique and style. I don't think it's gonna be too great a gap between the two. Conditioning would seem to matter most in this fight. Kicking, grappling, not to mention a pound-for-pound champ looking for a knockout punch is just as tiring as it sounds. How prepared and strong both the fighters feel leading up to fight day will obviously play a big part. Other than that though, both fighters have sound tactics. So does it really just come to speed versus strength? Volk's not slow by any chance, but El Pantera literally got his name for it, the Panther. On the other hand, Alex was a heavy rugby player before entering the UFC. The guy was, and still is, an absolute unit. Plus, years of skills gained by dominating Max Holloway in multiple fights as opposed to Yair, who, well, lost to the Blessed. You see how it's so evenly matched on both sides for either fighter. Yeah, that's gonna be one exciting fight. Both fighters will have to come up with new techniques for this opponent. I imagine The Great will find help from his coaching panel at City Kickboxing, where Yair leads in style though, Volk counters with battle-hardened ferocity. He's the pound-for-pound king after all. That's huge pressure, and if he can bear that and then some by challenging and following through with a hard match against Islam, but as even Volk knows, there's always a new champ around the corner. It's how he got his shot at the champion. Now it might be El Pantera's turn. Again, all it takes is a punch for KO. Meanwhile, El Pantera likes to go for combos, so yes, that's how much of a threat he is to Alexander.